My 40th birthday started with silence, and that should have been my first warning. Mira had been moving around the house like a ghost all morning, her phone buzzing constantly while she pretended to fold laundry. Every notification made her jump, and every glance she threw my way felt calculated. When you've been married for 12 years, you learn to read the signs. The way she avoided eye contact, the way her voice pitched higher when she lied, the way she suddenly cared about her appearance on a random Tuesday. "I'm meeting Cleo tonight," she announced around noon, not looking up from her phone. "Real estate networking thing at that new club downtown." I was in my workshop, installing a smart security system for the Hendersons next door. My hands never stopped moving, but my mind processed every word. Mira hated networking events. She especially hated clubs, and she'd never mentioned any real estate function. "Sounds fun," I said, keeping my voice level. "What time will you be back?" "Late. Don't wait up." That's when I knew. Not suspected, not worried, knew. 12 years of marriage teaches you when your wife is lying, and Mira was terrible at it. Her tells were as obvious as neon signs. The fake casual tone, the way she touched her neck when she spoke, the sudden interest in her appearance. I finished the Henderson installation and came home to an empty house. No birthday dinner, no cake, no acknowledgement that I existed. Just a note on the kitchen counter. "Happy birthday. Sorry I have to work. Rain check?" Rain check. Like my birthday was a baseball game that could be rescheduled. I made myself a sandwich and sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade. Security cameras, motion sensors, smart locks, everything designed to keep the bad guys out. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days protecting other people's homes while my own marriage crumbled from the inside. My phone buzzed. A text from Mira. "At the club with Cleo. Networking is exhausting." Attached was a photo of 2 cocktails on a high-top table. But I could see the reflection in the glass behind them. A man's silhouette. Tall, broad shoulders, familiar stance. Jace Arnell, her ex-boyfriend from college, the one she claimed to hate, the one she said was a mistake she'd learned from, the one who owned 3 car dealerships and wore his success like cologne, too much and impossible to ignore. I stared at that reflection for a long time, my workshop suddenly feeling like a tomb. The silence pressed against my ears until I could hear my own heartbeat. Then I did what any reasonable husband would do. I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. 3rd time, her phone was turned off. That's when the calm settled over me. Not anger, not panic, just a cold, calculating calm that surprised me with its intensity. I'd always been the guy who fixed things, broken appliances, faulty wiring, damaged relationships. But some things can't be fixed. Some things need to be dismantled carefully, methodically, with the right tools. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. "Cleo? It's Wes. I hope I'm not interrupting your networking event." The pause on the other end told me everything. Cleo Marver had been Mira's best friend since college, but she'd also been my friend. We'd shared enough barbecues and game nights for me to know when she was uncomfortable. "Wes? Hi, is everything okay?" "That depends. Are you at a real estate networking event with my wife?" Another pause. Longer this time. In the background, I could hear music. Loud, thumping bass that definitely wasn't coming from any professional networking mixer. "Wes, Simple question, Cleo. Are you with Mira right now?" "No." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm at home. I've been home all evening." There it was. The confirmation I didn't want, but needed. My wife had used her best friend as cover to spend my birthday with her ex-boyfriend. "Thanks for being honest," I said. "I need a favor." "Anything." "Can you come over? I think we need to talk about what Mira's really doing tonight." 20 minutes later, Cleo stood in my driveway, her face pale in the porch light. She was clutching her purse like a lifeline, and her eyes were red-rimmed. She knew. She'd probably known for weeks. maybe months. How long? I asked as I led her inside. Wes, I'm so sorry. I told her this was wrong. I told her… How long, Cleo? 3 months. She collapsed onto my couch like her strings had been cut. It started at the car show in April. She said it was just coffee, just catching up. Then it was lunch. Then my wife started lying to me about networking events. Cleo nodded, tears streaming down her face. She made me promise not to tell you. She said she needed time to figure things out. She said you'd been distant lately, that you didn't appreciate her anymore. I almost laughed. Distant. That was rich coming from a woman who'd been sneaking around with her ex for 3 months. Where are they really? I asked. Velvet Room. That new place on 5th Street. The Velvet Room. I knew it by reputation. Overpriced drinks, dim lighting, and the kind of atmosphere that made married people forget they were married. Perfect for a reunion with an ex-boyfriend. My phone buzzed. A text from Mira. Networking is going great. Making lots of connections. Love you. I showed the message to Cleo, who winced like I'd slapped her. She's really going to keep lying, Cleo whispered. Even now. Not for long, I said, my fingers moving across the phone's keyboard. She just texted that she's making connections. Let's see how she handles this connection. I typed back, glad you're networking so hard with Jace. Hope the Velvet Room has good Wi-Fi for all that business. I hit send and waited. The response came 30 seconds later. What? Then, I don't know what you mean. Then, you're being paranoid. Finally, I'm coming home right now. Perfect, I said, showing Cleo the exchange. She's panicking. Now comes the fun part. I typed my response carefully. Don't worry, I'm already here, and I'm not alone. Cleo stared at me. What are you doing? Something I should have done months ago, I said. I'm taking control. My phone rang immediately. Mira's name flashed on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. Each unanswered call was a small victory, a crack in the foundation of lies she'd built around her betrayal. Wes, maybe you should answer. No. I stood up and walked to my workshop, Cleo following behind me. She chose to spend my birthday with her ex. She chose to lie about it. She chose to use you as cover. Now she gets to live with the consequences. I opened my laptop and pulled up the home security system I'd installed last year. With a few clicks, I changed the entry codes for all the locks. Then I pulled up Mira's location on the family sharing app she'd insisted we use for safety. She was driving. Fast. The little blue dot was racing down 5th Street toward our neighborhood. She's 10 minutes out, I said. That gives us just enough time. Time for what? I walked to the kitchen and opened the junk drawer where Mira kept her spare keys. House key, office key, gym locker key, all the little pieces of her life that she thought were secure. I gathered them up and handed them to Cleo. What are these for? Leverage, I said. When she gets here, she's going to try to spin this. She's going to blame me, blame the situation, blame everything except her own choices. But these keys represent something she can't argue with. Consequences. Cleo stared at the keys like they might bite her. Wes, I don't think… You don't think what? That she deserves consequences for lying to her husband on his birthday? For dragging you into her web of lies? For making you feel guilty about her choices? Cleo's shoulders sagged. You're right. I've been covering for her, and I hate myself for it. She put me in an impossible position. Then help me put her in one. The sound of tires screeching into the driveway cut through the night. Mira was home, and from the way she'd parked, crooked, half on the lawn, she was rattled. Showtime, I said. Mira burst through the front door like a woman escaping a fire, her heels clicking frantically on the hardwood. She was still dressed for the club. Tight black dress, jewelry that caught the light, makeup that had probably taken an hour to apply. For Jace, not for me. Wes, she called out, her voice pitched high with artificial brightness. I'm home early. The networking thing was so boring, I decided to. She stopped when she saw Cleo sitting on our couch, keys clutched in her hands. Cleo, what are you doing here? The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Mira's eyes darted from me to Cleo and back again, and I could see her mind racing, trying to construct a story that would explain everything away. Sit down, Mira, I said quietly. I don't understand what's happening here. Why is Cleo— Sit down. Something in my tone must have penetrated her panic because she moved to the armchair across from us, perching on the edge like she might need to run again. Now, I said, let's talk about your networking event. It was exactly what I told you. Real estate professionals, potential clients, at the Velvet Room. Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. With Jace Arnell. That's ridiculous. Why would I— On my birthday. Each fact hit her like a physical blow. I could see her defenses crumbling, but she wasn't ready to surrender yet. You're being paranoid, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Just because I went out doesn't mean— Cleo, I said, not taking my eyes off my wife. Tell her what you told me. Cleo looked miserable, but she spoke. I told him I wasn't with you tonight. I told him about the 3 months of lies. I told him everything, Mira. Mira turned on her best friend with a fury that surprised me. You promised. You said you wouldn't— I said I wouldn't volunteer the information, but when he asked me directly, I couldn't keep lying for you. Some friend you are. Some wife you are. The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. It's my birthday, Mira, my 40th birthday, and you spent it getting cozy with your ex-boyfriend while using your best friend as an alibi. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Enlighten me. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I could see her scrambling for an explanation that would make this okay, but there wasn't one. We ran into each other at the coffee shop last week, and he mentioned he'd be at the Velvet Room tonight. I thought it would be harmless to stop by and say hello. For 3 months? What? Cleo says this has been going on for 3 months, since April. So either you're lying now or you lied to your best friend. Which is it? Mira's composure finally cracked. Fine. Yes, I've been seeing him. But it's not what you think. We're just friends. We're just talking. About what? About everything. About how things used to be. About dreams we had. About how much better your life would be without me. She didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood. Quiet suburban streets, houses full of families, lives built on trust and commitment, everything I thought I had. You know what the funny thing is? I said without turning around. I actually thought about calling Jace myself today. What? Mira's voice was sharp with panic. I thought about calling him and inviting him to my birthday dinner, because I figured if my wife was so eager to spend time with him, maybe we should all be friends. Maybe I was being the jealous, paranoid husband you keep painting me as. I turned back to face her, but then I realized something. You don't want us all to be friends. You want to keep this secret. You want to have your stable, reliable husband at home and your exciting ex-boyfriend on the side. You want to eat your cake and have it too. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you looked at me the way you looked at yourself in the mirror before you left tonight? When was the last time you put that much effort into your appearance for me? She had no answer because we both knew the truth. I'd become furniture in my own home, useful, reliable, and completely invisible. Wes, she said, her voice softer now. I know this looks bad, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend this never happened? Pretend you didn't lie to me for 3 months? Pretend you didn't choose him over me on my birthday? It was one night. It was my birthday. The words came out louder than I intended, and Mira flinched. 40 years old, Mira. 40 years of birthdays, and this is the one I'll remember forever. Not because of any party or gift or celebration, but because it's the night I learned my wife would rather be anywhere else than with me. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her, no desire to make this easier. She'd made her choice. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it?" She didn't answer. I walked back to where Cleo sat, still clutching Mira's keys. "Give them to me." Cleo looked confused. "What?" "The keys. Give them to me." She handed them over, and I held them up so Mira could see them clearly. "These represent access," I said. "Access to our home, your office, your gym, your life. Access you've been taking for granted while you built a secret life with another man." "Wes, what are you doing?" I walked to Mira and held out my hand. "Your current keys, all of them." "I'm not giving you my keys." "Then you're not coming back into this house tonight." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't lock me out of my own home." "Watch me." I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. With a few taps, I activated the lockdown mode I'd installed for emergencies. Every door, every window, every possible entry point sealed tight. "The locks have been changed," I said calmly. "The security codes have been changed. Your fingerprint has been removed from the biometric scanner. This house is no longer accessible to you." "That's illegal. I live here." "You live where you choose to live. Tonight, you chose to live at the Velvet Room with Jace. Tomorrow, you can choose to live wherever you want, but you're not choosing to live here anymore." Mira turned to Cleo desperately. "Say something. Tell him he's being crazy." But Cleo just shook her head. "You made your choice, Mira. You made it 3 months ago, and you made it again tonight." "So what am I supposed to do? Sleep in my car?" "Call Jace," I suggested. "I'm sure he'd love to play the hero and rescue you from your terrible husband." "I can't believe you're doing this." "I can't believe you're surprised." She stood there for a long moment, swaying slightly in her heels, makeup smeared, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd left for her networking event hours earlier. "Fine," she said finally. "But this isn't over. I'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to talk about this like adults." "Will we? Or will you be too busy networking with Jace?" She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. "You know what your problem is, Wes? You're boring. You're safe and reliable and boring, and I'm tired of being bored. And you know what your problem is, Mira? You think excitement is more important than integrity. You think passion is more valuable than promises. You think the grass is greener on the other side because you've never bothered to water your own lawn." She left without another word, her heels clicking angrily down the front walk. I watched through the window as she got in her car and sat there for several minutes, probably calling Jace, probably crying, probably spinning a story about her unreasonable husband. Then she drove away, and my house fell silent. "Are you okay?" Cleo asked softly. I considered the question. Was I okay? My marriage was over. My wife was gone. My birthday had been ruined, but for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." I woke up alone for the first time in 12 years, and it felt like freedom. The house was quiet, really quiet, not the fake quiet that comes when someone's trying to sneak around without waking you. No hairdryer humming in the bathroom, no heels clicking on hardwood, no phone buzzing with mysterious messages. Just silence, clean and honest. My phone had 17 missed calls from Mira and 43 text messages. I scrolled through them while I made coffee, watching her emotional journey play out in real time. 2:47 a.m. "This is ridiculous. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn and charging it to our joint account." 3:15 a.m. "You can't just lock me out of my own house. This is emotional abuse." 3:22 a.m. "I'm calling my lawyer in the morning." 4:01 a.m. "Please, can we just talk about this? I made a mistake, but we can fix this. 4:33 a.m. I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you. 5:12 a.m. Fine. Be that way. But you're going to regret this. The progression from anger to threats to bargaining to manipulation was textbook. I'd seen it before in my work. People always followed the same patterns when their security systems failed them. I was finishing my second cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, I could see Mira standing on the porch, looking like she hadn't slept. She was wearing the same dress from last night, but she'd added a cardigan and tried to fix her makeup. The result was more tragic than glamorous. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. "We need to talk," she said. "So talk." "Can I come inside? I live here, remember?" "Do you? Because last night you seemed pretty clear that this place was too boring for you." She winced. "I said things I didn't mean. I was upset and confused and honest. For the first time in months, you were completely honest about how you feel." "That's not fair." "Fair?" I almost laughed. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy before you started sneaking around with your ex. Fair would have been having this conversation 3 months ago instead of lying to me every single day." "I was trying to protect you." "From what? The truth? The knowledge that my wife found me so insufferable that she had to seek excitement elsewhere?" She started crying again, but the tears felt calculated now. Strategic. "I never meant for this to happen. Jace and we just started talking, and it brought back all these memories of who I used to be. Before marriage, before responsibilities, before everything got so routine." "Routine," I repeated. "Is that what you call our life together? Routine?" "Not routine, predictable, safe. We do the same things every day, see the same people, have the same conversations. I felt like I was disappearing." "So you decided to find yourself in Jace Arnell's arms?" "It wasn't like that. We just talked. We reminisced. You what? Held hands? Kissed? More?" She looked away, and I had my answer. "How much more, Mira? That's not important. It's important to me. I'm trying to understand exactly how far my wife was willing to go to cure her boredom." "We kissed," she whispered. "A few times. But that's all. I swear that's all." I studied her face, looking for tells. The neck touching was back, and she couldn't meet my eyes. She was lying, but I didn't need to know the details. The betrayal was complete, regardless of how far it had gone. "Okay," I said. "Thank you for being honest." She looked surprised. "So, you forgive me?" "I didn't say that. But if it was just kissing..." "Just kissing?" "Mira, you spent 3 months building a secret relationship with another man. You lied to me every single day. You used your best friend as cover. You chose him over me on my birthday. And now you want me to minimize it because it was just kissing?" People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. This was a choice, a series of choices, made over and over again for 3 months. I could see her frustration building. She'd expected tears and forgiveness, the usual pattern of their fights, but I wasn't following the script anymore. "So what do you want from me?" she demanded. "You want me to grovel? You want me to beg? Fine. I'm begging. Please forgive me. Please let me come home." "Why?" "Because I love you." "Do you? Or do you love the idea of not having to explain to your friends and family why your marriage fell apart?" She stepped back like I'd slapped her. "That's a horrible thing to say. But it's true, isn't it? You're not here because you realized you can't live without me. You're here because the alternative is admitting to everyone that you threw away 12 years of marriage for some excitement with an ex-boyfriend. That's not... Where did you sleep last night, Mira?" She hesitated. "The Hampton Inn." "Alone?" Another hesitation, longer this time. "Yes." "You're lying again." "I'm not." But her hand was at her neck, and she still couldn't look at me. I pulled out my phone and opened the security app for my business. One of the perks of installing security systems all over town was having access to a lot of cameras. Jace's dealership has excellent security cameras, I said, scrolling through the footage. Motion-activated, high-definition, cloud storage. I installed the system myself last year. Her face went pale. Would you like to see the footage from last night, around 2 a.m.? A silver sedan, your car I believe, pulling into the lot. 2 figures getting out, walking to the office together. You're spying on me. I'm checking publicly accessible security footage that I'm authorized to monitor as part of my service contract. There's a difference. She was trapped, and we both knew it. The lies were piling up faster than she could manage them. Fine, she said, her voice turning hard. Yes, I went to see Jace after you locked me out. Yes, I stayed there, but only because I had nowhere else to go. You had money for the Hampton Inn. I didn't want to be alone, but you wanted to be away from me. You threw me out. I gave you consequences for your choices. There's a difference. We stared at each other across the threshold of what used to be our shared home. I could see her calculating, trying to find an angle that would get her what she wanted. What do you want from me, Wes? What will it take to fix this? I want you to stop lying. I'm not. You're lying right now. You're standing there pretending this is about one night, one mistake, one moment of weakness. But it's not. It's about 3 months of deception. It's about choosing excitement over commitment. It's about deciding that your boredom was more important than our marriage. So that's it? 12 years? And you're just going to throw it all away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. She started crying again, but this time it felt real, desperate. Please, Wes, please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll cut all contact with Jace. I'll go to counseling. You'll what? Promise to try harder? Promise to appreciate what you have? Promise to stop being bored with your reliable, predictable husband? Yes, all of that. Until the next time you meet someone exciting. Until the next time routine feels suffocating. Until the next time you decide that your happiness is more important than your promises. That won't happen. How do I know that? How do I trust someone who's been lying to me for 3 months? How do I believe promises from someone who's broken every promise she's ever made to me? She had no answer because there wasn't one. Trust, once broken, couldn't be repaired with words. I need my things, she said finally. Make a list. I'll pack them up and have them delivered. I want to get them myself. Not happening. Those are my belongings. In my house, which you forfeited access to when you decided to build a secret life with another man. You can't do this. I can, and I am. You made your choice, Mira. Now you get to live with it. She stood there for another minute, probably hoping I'd change my mind, probably waiting for me to crack. But I'd spent the night thinking, and my resolve had only hardened. This isn't over, she said finally. Yes, it is. I closed the door and watched through the security monitor as she walked back to her car. She sat there for a long time, probably calling Jace again, probably crying again, probably trying to figure out how her simple affair had exploded into homelessness. Then she drove away, and I started planning my next move. The thing about installing security systems for a living is that you learn how information flows through a community. Cameras, sensors, network connections, they're all just tools for gathering data. And in a town like ours, data was power. I spent the morning making phone calls. Henderson Security, this is Wes. Wes, thank you again for the installation yesterday. The system is working perfectly. Mrs. Henderson was a sweet woman in her 70s who lived 3 houses down from Jace's main dealership. She was also the neighborhood watch coordinator and had eyes like a hawk. I'm glad to hear it. Actually, I'm calling because I might need to adjust the camera angles. Have you noticed any unusual activity around the dealership lately? I want to make sure our system is capturing the right areas. Oh my, yes. Just last night, actually. That silver car was there very late, past midnight. I was up with my insomnia, and I saw the lights in the office. I thought maybe there was a break-in, but then I saw it was that nice young man who owns the place. Jace Arnell? That's the one. He had a young lady with him. Pretty thing, but she looked upset. They stayed until almost dawn. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. That's very helpful for calibrating the system. One call down, several more to go. Next, I called my friend Danny, who worked at the Hampton Inn. Danny, it's Wes Farrow. I need a favor. Sure thing, man. What's up? My wife said she stayed at your hotel last night, but I think she's lying about it. Room would have been under Mira Farrow or Mira Callan. Hang on, let me check. Nope. No Farrow or Callan last night. We were pretty slow, actually. Only had about 6 rooms occupied. Thanks, Danny. I owe you one. Everything okay? Getting better by the minute. The lies were unraveling faster than Mira could weave them, but I wasn't done gathering information. I drove downtown to Cleo's apartment. She answered the door in pajamas, looking like she'd slept about as well as I had. How are you holding up? I asked. Terrible. I feel like I destroyed my best friend's marriage. You didn't destroy anything. You just stopped enabling the destruction that was already happening. She let me in, and I could see she'd been crying. Her coffee table was covered with tissues and her laptop was open to Facebook. She's been messaging me all morning, Cleo said, calling me a traitor, saying I ruined her life, demanding that I tell you it was all a misunderstanding. What did you tell her? The truth, that I'm done covering for her lies. I sat down across from her. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. How far did things go between Mira and Jace? Cleo's face crumpled. Wes, I don't think... I need to know. Not for revenge, not to hurt her more, but because she's still lying to me. And I can't make good decisions based on bad information. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. They've been sleeping together, she whispered finally. Not just kissing. Not just emotional. They've been together. Multiple times. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. How do you know? She told me. She was so excited, so alive. She said Jace made her feel young again, made her remember who she was before she got married. She said the physical connection was incredible, like nothing she'd felt in years. Each word was a knife, but I needed to hear it. I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. Did she ever express any guilt about it? At first, the first time it happened, she called me crying, saying it was a mistake and it would never happen again. But then it did happen again. And again. And eventually, she stopped feeling guilty and started feeling entitled to it. Entitled? She said you'd grown apart, that you didn't appreciate her anymore, that you took her for granted. She convinced herself that she deserved to be happy, and if you couldn't make her happy, she had the right to find happiness elsewhere. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street below. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that my world was collapsing in real time. There's something else, Cleo said softly. I turned back to her. What? She's been talking about leaving you. Not just for the affair, but permanently. She and Jace have been making plans. What kind of plans? Moving in together. She's been looking at apartments online, places where they could start over. She showed me listings last week. The betrayal was even deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't just an affair. It was an exit strategy. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I kept hoping she'd come to her senses. I kept thinking she'd realize what she was throwing away and end it before it was too late. It was already too late the moment she decided to lie to me. Cleo nodded, tears flowing freely now. I'm so sorry, Wes. I should have told you months ago. I should have refused to cover for her. I should have. You should have been a better friend to me, yes. But you can't change that now. What you can do is help me understand what I'm really dealing with. What do you mean? I sat back down and looked her in the eye. Mira is going to try to spin this as a momentary lapse in judgment. She's going to minimize it, make it seem like less than it was. But if she's been planning to leave me anyway, then her tears and apologies this morning were just manipulation. They were. She called me before she came to see you. She asked me to help her figure out what to say to get back in the house. She wasn't sorry. She was just angry that her plan got disrupted. What was her plan? To keep seeing Jace until she was ready to leave you. She wanted to have everything lined up, the apartment, the finances, the story she'd tell people, before she pulled the trigger. So I was supposed to be the unknowing husband, funding her exit strategy while she prepared to abandon me. Yes. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not anger, not hurt, but a crystalline clarity about what needed to happen next. Thank you for being honest with me. What are you going to do? What I should have done this morning. I'm going to stop playing defense and start playing offense. What does that mean? I stood up and headed for the door. It means Mira wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that I'm much better at this game than she is. I drove straight to Mira's real estate office, a gleaming glass building in the downtown district that screamed success and ambition. Her silver BMW was in the parking lot, which meant she'd decided to act like everything was normal while she figured out her next move. The receptionist, a young woman named Ashley who'd always been friendly to me at office parties, looked surprised to see me. "Mr. Farrow, how nice to see you. Are you here to surprise Mira?" Something like that. "Is she in?" "She's in a meeting with Mr. Luce, but I'm sure she'd love to see you. Should I? Actually, I'll wait. I wouldn't want to interrupt important business." I settled into one of the leather chairs in the waiting area and pulled out my phone. Time to make some calls. First call, Jace's main competitor, Tommy Briggs, who ran a smaller but more honest car lot across town. "Tommy, it's Wes Farrow. I installed your security system last year." "Wes, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "I've got some information you might find interesting about Jace Arnell's business practices." "I'm listening." "He's been using insider real estate information to flip cars. My wife works for Luce Properties, and she's been feeding him details about upcoming developments before their public knowledge. He buys up cars from people who don't know their property values are about to skyrocket, then resells them at huge markups." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. I'd seen enough of Mira's work emails over the years to know she'd shared information she shouldn't have. And in a small town, that kind of behind-the-scenes dealing, even in the car business, could destroy a reputation. "That's interesting," Tommy said. "You got any proof?" "I've got emails, lots of them. Want me to send you copies?" "Hell yes." Second call, the local newspaper's business reporter, Janet Mills. "Janet, it's Wes Farrow. I've got a story you might want to investigate." "What kind of story?" "Real estate agent sharing confidential client information with her boyfriend who happens to own 3 car dealerships. Potential ethics violations, possible legal issues." "That's a serious accusation. You have documentation?" "I have everything. Emails, text messages, meeting records. My wife kept meticulous records of all her communications." Third call, Mira's boss, Mr. Luce. "Mr. Luce, this is Wes Farrow, Mira's husband." "Wes, how are you? Mira's in my office right now, actually. Would you like me to put her on?" "Actually, I'm calling about a potential ethics issue. I think you should know that Mira has been sharing confidential client information with Jace Arnell for the past several months." The silence on the other end was deafening. "That's a very serious allegation, Wes." "I have documentation. Emails, text messages, records of meetings where client information was discussed. I think you'll want to see them." "I think I would. Can you come in this afternoon?" "I'm actually in your waiting room right now." By the time Mira emerged from her meeting with Mr. Luce, I'd made 6 more calls, the local business association, the real estate licensing board, 2 of her biggest clients, Word was already starting to spread through the professional community that Mira Farrow might have some explaining to do. She saw me sitting there, and her face went white. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting my wife at work. Is that not allowed?" "We need to talk. Privately." "I'm sure we do." She led me to her office, a pristine space with awards on the walls and photos of happy clients shaking hands in front of sold houses. There was one photo of us from our wedding, tucked away in a corner where clients wouldn't see it. "What did you tell Mr. Luce?" she demanded as soon as the door closed. "The truth. That you've been sharing confidential client information with your boyfriend." "That's not true, isn't it? Remember the Petersons? Nice elderly couple who wanted to sell their house quietly before the new shopping center was announced? You told Jace about that, and he made them a lowball offer the next day." Her face went even whiter. "That was a coincidence." "Was it? What about the Hendersons, the Washingtons, the Garcias?" Funny how Jace always seemed to know exactly when your clients were motivated to sell quickly. "You're making connections that don't exist." "Am I? Because I've got your text messages to Jace. I've got emails where you discuss client situations. I've got records of meetings where you shared information you had no right to share." She sank into her chair, the fight going out of her. "How do you have my messages?" "Family sharing plan, remember? You insisted we link all our devices for convenience. Turns out it was very convenient. For me. You've been spying on me. I've been monitoring communications on devices I pay for, which is completely legal, especially when those communications reveal criminal activity. It's not criminal. Ethics violations for a licensed real estate agent? Sharing confidential client information for personal gain? I'm pretty sure the licensing board will disagree." She was panicking now, her carefully constructed professional image crumbling in real time. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could lie to me, cheat on me, and plan to leave me without any repercussions. You thought I was too boring, too predictable, too safe to fight back. Wes, please." But here's what you didn't consider. Boring, predictable, safe people often have access to a lot of information. They're trusted. They're underestimated. They see things and hear things and remember things. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley at the front desk. "Mr. Luce wants to see Mira in his office immediately." I showed her the message. "Looks like your boss wants to chat." "You're destroying my career." "I'm revealing the truth about your career. There's a difference." She stood up, smoothing her skirt, trying to regain some composure. "This won't change anything between us. Even if you ruin my job, even if you destroy my reputation, I'm still not coming back to you." "Good. Because I wouldn't take you back." "What?" "You heard me. Even if you begged, even if you groveled, even if you promised to be the perfect wife for the rest of your life, I wouldn't take you back. Because I finally understand what you've been trying to tell me. Which is? That we're incompatible. You need excitement, drama, passion, risk. I need honesty, loyalty, stability, trust. Those things don't go together." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "So what is this? Revenge?" "This is justice. You made choices, and now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. Just like I have to live with the consequences of trusting someone who didn't deserve it." Her phone rang. Mr. Luce's extension. "You should take that," I said. "I hear he doesn't like to be kept waiting." I left her standing in her office, phone ringing, career imploding, perfect life falling apart piece by piece. As I walked through the lobby, Ashley called out to me, "Mr. Farrow, is everything okay?" Mira seemed upset. "Everything's fine, Ashley. Just some personal matters we're working through." "Well, I hope you two can work it out. You seem like such a nice couple." "We did seem that way, didn't we?" I walked out into the afternoon sunshine, feeling lighter than I had in months. Phase 1 was complete. But I was just getting started. By evening, the news had spread through our social circle like wildfire. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and messages from friends, neighbors, and acquaintances who'd heard various versions of the story. Some were supportive. I always thought Mira was too good to be true. Others were shocked. I can't believe she'd do something like that. A few were accusatory. You must have driven her to it somehow. I ignored most of them and focused on the task at hand, dismantling the life Mira had built on lies. Around 6 p.m., Cleo called. "Wes, what did you do? Mira's been calling me hysterically. She says you've destroyed her career." I exposed her unethical behavior. There's a difference. She's been fired. Consequences. She's talking about suing you. For what? Telling the truth? For invasion of privacy, for... Cleo, stop. Mira made her choices. She chose to have an affair. She chose to violate her professional ethics. She chose to lie and manipulate and scheme. I didn't make those choices for her. But you didn't have to ruin her professionally. Didn't I? She was planning to leave me anyway, remember? You told me she'd been looking at apartments, making plans with Jace, so she was going to take half of everything I've worked for and use it to start a new life with her lover. Was I supposed to just smile and wish her well? Cleo was quiet for a moment. She's scared, Wes. Really scared. Good. Fear is what people feel when they finally understand that their actions have consequences. What's your end game here? What do you want to accomplish? I thought about that question. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? For Mira to suffer the way I'd suffered? Or something else entirely? I want her to understand that she can't just take what she wants from people without giving anything back. I want her to learn that love isn't a game and marriage isn't a convenience, and I want her to face the truth about who she really is. And who is that? Someone who's selfish enough to destroy a 12-year marriage for a few months of excitement. Someone who's dishonest enough to lie to her husband's face every day for 3 months. Someone who's manipulative enough to use her best friend as cover for her affair. She's not evil, Wes. She's just lost. Maybe. But that doesn't make her my responsibility anymore. After I hung up with Cleo, I poured myself a drink and sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade. Security cameras, motion sensors, alarm systems, everything designed to protect people from threats they couldn't see coming. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years protecting other people's homes while failing to protect my own marriage. But maybe that was because the threat had already been inside the house. My phone rang. Jace Arnell's name appeared on the screen. Well, I said, answering on the third ring. The man of the hour. We need to talk. His voice was tight with anger. Do we? I think everything's been said already. You're destroying innocent people. Innocent? That's an interesting choice of words coming from a man who's been sleeping with another man's wife. Mira's lost her job because of you. Mira lost her job because she violated her professional ethics. I just made sure the right people found out about it. You vindictive piece of... Careful, Jace. I'm recording this call, and I'd hate for your customers to hear what you really think about people who cross you. He was quiet for a moment, probably trying to control his temper. What do you want? He asked finally. I want you to understand something. Mira isn't the victim here. She's a married woman who chose to have an affair. She's a real estate agent who chose to violate her professional ethics. She's a person who chose to lie and manipulate and scheme. Those were her choices, not mine. She was unhappy, so she should have gotten a divorce. She should have been honest about what she wanted instead of sneaking around behind my back. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Marriage is a promise. Either you keep your promises or you don't. Mira chose not to. And what about you? What about your promises to love and cherish her? I kept those promises for 12 years, right up until the moment I discovered she'd been breaking hers for 3 months. So that's it? You're just going to destroy her life? I'm not destroying anything. I'm revealing what was already there, the lies, the deception, the betrayal. That was all her doing. You're a cold man, Wes Farrow. I'm a man who's tired of being lied to. There's a difference. He hung up without another word. An hour later, my doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, I could see Mira standing on my porch again, but this time, she wasn't alone. Jace was with her, his arm around her shoulders in a possessive gesture that probably would have hurt me yesterday. Today, it just looked pathetic. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "We need to talk," Mira said. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked exhausted. "So talk. Can we come inside?" "No. Fine, we'll talk here." She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. For the affair, for the lies, for hurting you. I made terrible mistakes, and I understand why you're angry." "Do you?" "Yes, and I'm willing to make it right. I'll do whatever it takes." "What does Jace think about that?" She glanced at him, and I caught a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Jace supports whatever I decide," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Is that true, Jace? You support Mira trying to reconcile with her husband?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I support Mira being happy." "How noble of you. And if she's happiest with me? Then that's what I want for her." "Liar." "Excuse me?" "You're lying. You don't want what's best for Mira. You want Mira. There's a difference." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? You've been planning a life together, looking at apartments, making plans. That doesn't sound like a man who wants what's best for someone else. That sounds like a man who wants what he wants and doesn't care about the collateral damage." Mira looked confused. "What apartments?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I'd taken from her browser history. Apartment listings, rental applications, searches for pet-friendly housing near Jace's dealerships. "You've been planning to leave me for weeks," I said. "Maybe months. So don't stand on my porch and pretend this is about making mistakes or being sorry. This is about your plan falling apart and you trying to salvage something from the wreckage." She stared at the phone screen, then at Jace, then back at me. "How did you—" "Shared devices, remember? I can see everything you've searched for, every site you've visited, every plan you've made. That's invasion of privacy. That's marriage, or it was until you decided to end it." Jace stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "You can't just spy on people. I can monitor devices I own and pay for, especially when those devices are being used to plan the destruction of my marriage. We weren't trying to hurt you. No, you were just trying to replace me, which is actually worse." Mira was crying again, but these tears felt different, less manipulative, more desperate. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "What will it take to fix this?" "Nothing." "What?" "There's nothing you can do to fix this. It's broken beyond repair. But if I end things with Jace, you already ended things with me 3 months ago when you decided that excitement was more important than integrity. People can change, can they? Because from where I'm standing, you look like the same person who lied to me this morning about where you spent last night." She looked stricken. "I was scared." "Of what? The truth?" "Of losing everything. You already lost everything, you just didn't realize it yet." I started to close the door, but Jace put his hand against it. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is. You can't just destroy people's lives and walk away. Watch me." I closed the door and activated the security system. Through the monitor, I watched them stand on my porch for several minutes, arguing in hushed tones. Finally, they walked back to Jace's car, a flashy red Mustang that screamed midlife crisis. As they drove away, I realized something had changed. The anger was fading, replaced by something cleaner and more final. I wasn't trying to hurt Mira anymore. I was just trying to be free of her. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, that freedom felt possible. 3 days later, I was installing a security upgrade at the Riverside Community Center when I got the call that would change everything. Mr. Farrow, this is Detective Martinez with the police department. We need to speak with you about some allegations that have been made. What kind of allegations? Harassment, stalking, invasion of privacy. Can you come down to the station? I'll be right there. I finished the installation quickly and drove to the police station, my mind racing. Mira was escalating, trying to use the legal system to fight back against the consequences of her own actions. Detective Martinez was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She led me to an interview room and laid out a file on the table. "Your wife has filed a complaint against you," she said. "She claims you've been stalking her, monitoring her communications without permission, and using that information to damage her reputation and career." "Did she mention why I was monitoring those communications?" "She says you became suspicious and paranoid without cause." I almost laughed. "Without cause?" "That's what she claims. She says you've been controlling and abusive throughout your marriage, and that you're now using technology to harass her." "Detective Martinez, may I ask you a question?" "Go ahead. Are you married?" "I am." "If you discovered your husband was having an affair, what would you do?" "That's not relevant to—" "It's completely relevant. My wife has been having an affair for 3 months. She's been lying to me every day, using her best friend as cover, violating her professional ethics to help her lover's business, and planning to leave me while keeping me in the dark about her intentions. When I discovered this and took steps to protect myself, she filed a complaint claiming I'm the abusive one." Detective Martinez leaned back in her chair. "Do you have proof of these allegations?" "I have everything. Text messages, emails, browser history, location data, witness statements. Would you like to see them?" For the next hour, I walked Detective Martinez through the evidence. The affair, the lies, the professional misconduct, the planning to leave. By the end, her expression had changed from skeptical to sympathetic. "Mr. Farrow, I have to ask, have you made any threats against your wife or Mr. Arnell?" "No threats. I've simply made sure that the truth about their behavior became public knowledge." "Have you physically harmed anyone or damaged any property?" "No." "Have you continued to monitor your wife's communications after she moved out?" "No. Once she left, I removed her access to all shared accounts and devices." Detective Martinez closed the file. "Based on what you've shown me, I don't see any evidence of criminal behavior on your part. Monitoring shared devices and accounts is legal, especially when you're the account holder. And sharing truthful information about someone's professional misconduct isn't harassment, it's whistleblowing. So what happens now? I'll document our conversation and file my report. The complaint will likely be dismissed, but I'd recommend you document any future contact with your wife in case this escalates. It's going to escalate. She's not the type to accept consequences gracefully. Then be prepared. And Mr. Farrow? I'm sorry this happened to you. No one deserves to be betrayed like that." I left the police station feeling vindicated but not relieved. Mira was getting desperate, which made her dangerous. And desperate people did unpredictable things. I was right to be worried. That evening, I was working in my garage when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw Jace's Mustang, but he wasn't alone. There were 2 other men with him, large, intimidating types who looked like they'd be more comfortable in a bar fight than a boardroom. I activated my security system's panic button, which would automatically record everything and send alerts to my emergency contacts. Then I walked outside to meet them. "Gentlemen," I said calmly, "what can I do for you?" Jace stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. "You've gone too far, Farrow." "Have I? How so?" "The police complaint, the harassment, the destruction of Mira's career. It ends now." "Actually, the police dismissed the complaint about an hour ago. Turns out telling the truth isn't a crime." "We're not talking about the law anymore." I looked at his companions who were trying to look menacing, but mostly just looked nervous. "Are you threatening me, Jace?" I'm telling you how things are going to be. You're going to stop this campaign against Mira. You're going to leave us alone. And you're going to find a way to fix the damage you've caused to her reputation. Or what? Or we'll fix it for you. I almost smiled. You brought muscle to intimidate me into covering up your affair with my wife? I brought friends to help you understand the situation. I understand the situation perfectly. You're a middle-aged car salesman who seduced a married woman and convinced her to destroy her own life for a few months of excitement. Now that there are consequences, you're panicking. Shut up. And instead of facing those consequences like an adult, you're standing in my driveway with hired thugs, trying to bully me into silence. They're not hired. Oh, they're volunteers? How generous of them. One of the men stepped forward. Maybe you should listen to what Mr. Arnell is telling you. And maybe you should understand that this entire conversation is being recorded and transmitted to multiple locations. If anything happens to me, you'll all be the prime suspects. The man looked uncertain. What? I pulled out my phone and showed them the security app. Motion-activated cameras with cloud storage and automatic emergency notifications. The police are already aware of this visit, and if I don't check in within the next hour, they'll be paying you a visit. Jace's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Want to test that theory? The silence stretched between us. I could see Jace calculating, trying to figure out if I was serious. His companions were already backing toward the car. This isn't over, Jace said finally. Yes, it is. Because here's what's going to happen next. You're going to get in your car and drive away. You're never going to come to my house again. You're never going to threaten me again. And you're going to accept that your relationship with Mira has consequences that extend beyond your little bubble of self-justification. And if we don't, then you'll discover that boring, predictable people often have very detailed contingency plans. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know where you live, where you work, where you eat, where you shop, and where you sleep. It means I have access to security footage from dozens of locations around town. It means I know about your business practices, your financial irregularities, and your history of manipulating vulnerable women. You're lying. Am I? Want to test that theory too? I could see the fear creeping into his eyes. He was starting to understand that he'd underestimated me, just like Mira had. You think you're so smart, he said. I think I'm prepared. There's a difference. Mira was right about you. You are controlling and manipulative. Mira would say anything to avoid taking responsibility for her choices. But you already know that, don't you? Because you've seen how easily she lies when it's convenient. She doesn't lie to me, doesn't she? She lied to me for 3 months while sleeping with you. What makes you think you're special? I could see doubt creeping into his expression. Good. Let him wonder. Let him question. Let him experience the same uncertainty I'd lived with. Get off my property, I said quietly. This isn't over, he repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is, and deep down, you know it. They left without another word, and I watched their taillights disappear into the night. Then I went inside and poured myself a drink, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. The war was over. I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed Mira and Jace, but because I'd finally stopped caring about destroying them. They would have to live with the consequences of their choices, just like I would have to live with the consequences of mine. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I was okay with that. The house was quiet around me. Really quiet. Honestly quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when all the lies have been exposed and all the pretenses have been dropped. It was the quiet of truth, and it was beautiful. I raised my glass to the empty room. Happy birthday to me, I said. 40 years old and finally free. Outside, it started to rain, washing the last traces of my old life down the storm drains. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new chances to build something real. But tonight, I just sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade, and enjoyed the silence.